In this video clip, we are going to learn about how to type equations in Microsoft Word, and the equations that I'm going to demonstrate are those for static equilibrium, the vector sum of forces equals 0 and vector sum of moments equals 0. So to start, typically you may find in your Microsoft Word document by default these paragraph markers do not appear, but I have formatted my file or formatted my Microsoft Word document in such a way that these appear, although this is not checked. So regardless of whether this is checked or unchecked, in my settings I have required that paragraph marker appear. So if this does not appear on your end, you might want to press this icon. Okay. Having said that, next thing we do is go click on Insert tab, followed by click on Equation. So this is what comes up. So if I have to write vector sum of forces equals 0, I'll start with the vector summation operator which is to be found here and there. So all I have to do is just type F equals 0. Now this may look like, well, this is not the kind of F I want. Then go back to home folder, home tab, click bold, uncheck italicized, and then likewise you can click bold after selecting the null vector or 0 to make it null vector, and there. So there we have it. So this is vector sum of forces equals 0. Now let's suppose you want to copy paste this onto next line. So we highlight this, Control C and Control V again to get here. And when I say Control C, Control V, you have to simultaneously press Control key and the C key. Simultaneously press Control C and Control V to paste. So with that said, let's say I want to write this equation further, and so I'll bring up this window, if you will, equation window, and then I'll go to Insert again and then look for symbol, and within symbol I'll find this double arrow. If not, then you might have to look for it. I have used it sufficiently frequently so it appears automatically on the top of my palette. So there the double arrow is provided. Then go click on design again, and now I can continue typing in the rest of the equation that I like it to be. So we'll start with, let's say if I had to write f sub 1 cosine theta in the unit vector I direction, so, or multiplied by unit vector I. So then I'll just type the script, or I'll press on the script button, and the script menu opens up number of options, and choose the subscript option, f sub 1, sub meaning subscript. And instead of writing cosine, as you can see, it automatically gets italicized, which then I have to unitalicize. I could just go up here, click on the function menu. I wanted cosine, so go back, and then click theta. Do I see it in the palette? Not here yet. So click on this, find theta here, and multiply with I. Now it would be time consuming to make the I bold as you go, so just type it up as usual, and then later you can come back to fix all these I's and make them bold and unitalicized to represent the unit vector I. With that said, I could also copy paste this entire thing. Let's see, can I? At least I can select f sub 1, Control C, followed by Control V. There, saves me time, and then I can make this f1 sine theta. So go back here, choose sine and theta. Theta is to be found right there, and then instead of I want J. Then I want to write plus, let's say I want to write W, the weight, minus J, and let's say plus 2I equals 0I plus 0J. Now I'll go back and make all these I's bold and unitalicized. Gotta do it carefully. Have to have a little patience, but other than that it's pretty straightforward. So there we have it. Now let's say I wanted to split this up into I and j components, suppose. So I could go up here, I have to highlight this equation editor, Control C, Control V again, and then I'll just say I can erase this part here. Let's see if I can, so that it goes away. So that implies I can write f1 cosine theta, and I can take this plus 2 here and drag it to put 2 there and say this equals 0, comma, delete all these i's, and maybe I want some space there, so I'll just press some space bar, or let's see if tab works. No, it doesn't quite. So instead of fooling around with tab, I'll just use space bar, and then I have f1 cosine theta plus 2 equals 0, f1 sine theta, click to take the j out, meaning delete these j's, and instead of w, write minus w. And say equals 0. And there we have it. So I've split this static equilibrium force equation into two components, I and j component equations, and likewise you can type the rest of the story. Now for the moment equation, especially how do you type that cross product? So let's see that too. Go back here, Control C, Control V, and change this f to m, but then I realize I want to write summation of moments about a certain point, and that certain point that I want to refer to has to be subscripted. So I'll just say, let me choose that option. So go back here, choose script, choose subscript option, and so we'll write m subscript, let's suppose point A. So there it is. Now m and a both m has to be unitalicized, it's a vector, and a doesn't need bold either. So there we have it, I think. So now it is unbolded. We'll start from scratch, I guess, and we'll go back and say sigma m equals 0, and insert equation again, and then we'll type implies, which is through insert symbol, let's say R1, so I'll write design and then I can insert the cross product here, and then maybe try if I can copy paste this thing. Control C, Control V, and then just use this little chunk if you will. And then I need a J, so I'll just say C, and then change this to J, and then maybe I'll just copy paste it here. Let's say plus 2i. Well, let's make this 5. So 5, oops, 5i cross with w So here I have to be careful. Sometimes if I am not careful, the next thing I know is I don't have italicized. So all the variables should be italicized. All the vectors should be bold and unitalicized. All the scalars should be italicized but not bold. So 5i cross w negative j, and negative j, I could just copy this j from here. Equals 0, and I want to write 0k, so I'll just make this unbold and write k, but then because I want it to be bold and vectored, I didn't want to worry about italics. So this is how we write a relatively simpler looking moment equation. If there are more terms to the moment equation, you can expand it to the next line. Now, having said that, sometimes automatically it would center itself. You can go back and say change to inline, and then it appears in this way. So this is pretty much the gist of how you write equations. Let's suppose you have to write fractions. Let's say, for example, instead of cosine theta, you had to write a fraction. So what you could do is, instead of cosine theta, you could insert a fraction template or script. So instead of script, you take fraction here, and depending on the type of number you want, you can take a big one or a small one. So let's try a small one. So here I can write r1 times 3 over 5, for example. Now this is pretty small at times, so what you can do then, if you feel that it's barely legible, it might be just better to take a bigger template, if you will, and choose instead this. I think it's still small. And then you can go back here. I was hitting the delete button all the time, and so this is right. This is like 3 over 5, and this is better legible than what we saw previously. I think slightly better legible. And then likewise I can say Control C, take the sign out of the equation, and replace with, let's say I want to write 4 over 5. So there it is. And if I want to put a special parenthesis around these, I could just bring my cursor over here, have another parenthesis that takes care of it. Apparently it's easier said than done, but we can always try. So the bracket option that you choose from here will automatically adjust itself to the size of the fraction, as opposed to writing parentheses manually. So there we have it. So this is one way to write the fractions. I think having said that, this is pretty much all there is to it. The rest is just using more of these features as and how they are needed. With that said, I'll stop here. Thank you for your time, and if this wasn't clear, please do let me know what wasn't clear when we meet in person, or email me. And you can, if this window was not sufficiently legible, you can just like adjust the zoom factor here, and you can see all the equations in much better form now.